Anytime. Yep. Mr. Camden, kind of read it. Mr. Camden County Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, May 1st, 2025, 9 o'clock a.m. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate silence or the off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 2 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman. Is there proof of publication?
The CRA meeting was published in the Pensacola News Journal on April 25th, 2025.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers for public forum?
None to my knowledge.
Thank you. Well, we'll go right into technical and public service.
Yes, recommendation concerning Community Redevelopment Agency meeting minutes, April 3rd, 2025.
Chair, entertain a motion. For acceptance. We have a motion. We have a second. Please vote. Raise your hand. That passed unanimous. Thank you so much. Budget and Finance Consent Agenda.
Yes, we have two for your approval. First one, recommendation concerning Residential Improvement Grant Program funding and lien agreements. Second one is recommendation concerning the cancellation of Residential Rehab Grant Program liens.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion. We have a motion. We have a second. Please vote. That passed unanimous. We have anything else?
Yes, we have a small presentation that I want to do.
Okay,
this morning.
we'll entertain the presentation now.
Okay, today we'll be doing a presentation for our CRA. Our community redevelopment agencies revitalize neglected areas by addressing physical blight through local leadership and publicly vetted redevelopment plan. The CRA is a wide investment helping ensure the long-term vitality of communities. Our impact in the CRAs, we've invested millions in the neighborhood revitalizations and hundreds of projects that are completed for housing to infrastructure, capital improvement, and beautification projects. I'm sorry. Go to the next one. Our budget for 15 years right here, we started out in 2008, and as you see, we did have a slight decline because of our TIF rates, but as you see, from 15 starting going up, our budget started to increase with our TIF rates going up as far as adding new CRAs. Our residential rehab grants also are similar to what happened with our budget. The demand that we had at our peak years, I had quite a few people taking advantage of these, and these are also based upon the market, people's affordability, because this is a matching grant. So with this matching grant, it's how, what they can afford to do.
Everett, so why is 2022, 2023 down? I think 2016 is when we started putting more money into the CRAs.
These are our matching grants. So these are the ones that we match where they have to come up front with the upfront money. And then once they do it, we reimburse 50%.
So there's no waiting list in 2022?
No, there's no
So we
wait.
just can't find enough people, or not
Well,
enough
it's
people
based
applying?
off a need, and like I said, with the market, and they're coming out of their pockets with this money. So it's basically based upon the resident and what they can afford, the affordability of these grants.
Okay, I mean, because I see the spike, and
Right.
Steve, you may remember, I remember in 2012, it was less of a contribution, and we raised it gradually from 13 to 14, and then we saw a real spike in what we were doing 16 and 17. It seems that, there's a little bit of a decline in 20 and 22 and 23.
Right. And the demand went down for it, so.
So the demand is down?
Yeah, I think the demand is more, and affordability. But the economy, if you look at, especially after COVID there, it's went down after, so.
Okay, I mean, just,
Commissioner, maybe there's some effort that CMR can put forward to try to get the word out there. I think a lot of it has to do with awareness. I think that's a big aspect, and you can kind of see we hit a peak in 17, and then it has kind of waned since then, and maybe we just need another cycle of increased awareness about the opportunities that are available.
Well, we do mailers.
I could agree with you because
Yeah,
I wrote to Molino yesterday, to Mr. Hawkins, so I could probably sit in that, and
It's a lovely ride. I appreciate you. I appreciate you traversing my district. It's a lovely ride up there.
I'm just dipping in everybody's district.
Commissioner May?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a question on this because I agree with you. But Everett, if we don't use the rehab that's designated for each CRA, and there's a designated amount each year, right, for each CRA for
Yes.
rehab grant?
Yes.
That rolls over back in just the CRA for other funds, right, at the end of the year, or does it stay in there for rehab in the?
It stays in the rehab.
Oh, so it doesn't
rehab.
leave that if we don't use
No.
it? Okay, all right, I didn't know that. Thank you.
So, I mean, I guess, Steve, you're saying CMR, and I don't have the data, I mean, so I can just, I'll take your word for it. But I know throughout my district, I still have a lot of blight and houses that need repair. So, I mean, it would question to me is, does there need to be better outreach, better communication, or there has to be something because I still see
Well,
houses.
we do the ones that don't fall within our income base. We do refer them over to NED. So NED would also pick up the slack on that also. So
Okay. So
So-
2024, we just, 5 months in, where do you project we're going to land? Oh, that's it, we're in 2025 now. So where are we now year to date in terms of rehab?
I don't have that year-to-date number. I can get it to you. We are actually doing doing something for you and so I can get you that year-to-date number. But I think just from the numbers, I think we're going to increase it more in 2025 than we will 2024.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a little troublesome to me of the numbers that we're having in 2024 decline. So if there's,
And like I said, this is the matching grant. So
meaning that we give them 25, they have to give us, they
well,
have to,
the 10,000.
10,000.
The 10,000. So it's really
the
based-
max of this is 10,000?
right.
So does that number need to change?
And we just changed that over last year. So
Yeah.
we still.
Steve, I think you brought that forward to change that.
Well, we've made multiple changes. We brought the mural program in for beautification. We added the additional stuff. I agree. I think maybe
Yeah.
we need to do a marketing campaign with CMR.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go to the next one. And these are a couple of the residential improvement grant roofs. This one is in Brownsville. Go to the next one. And this one is in Barrancas. And this is actually for installation for heating and cooling. And these were done actually before we did the increase also. So these were based upon the previous one, but with 6,000 compared to 10,000. And this is for our income-based roofs for the last 5 years. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. This is one of our.
And so in the roof program, there's no waiting list?
No. This one is one of the roofs that we did in Inglewood. And this is, go to the next one. Okay. Our revitalization projects and some of the key projects that we've done is the street lights and safety upgrades, park renovation and green space additions, sidewalk installation and beautification efforts, neighborhood cleanups, and our CRA gateway signs. These are our capital improvements, and from 2008 to 2024, if you notice, the dip is the same as with our budget, and it increased similar as our budget increased, so did our capital projects. And these are some of the projects that we've done. I know one of Commissioner Cole's favorite is the Warrenton, the Warrenton redevelopment sign there. And our neighborhood cleanups, our parks and parks and our sidewalks.
So on these signs, who designed them? Is there input from the neighborhood association and citizens when
Yes.
we do these signs?
Yes, yeah.
Hey, on that comment, I can tell you in Bio Davenport, the whole neighborhood group, Jane Birdwell put a design together, and it went to the neighborhood group, and they voted on it, and then, of course, Max worked with it, so there was a lot of community engagement on that sign in Bio Davenport.
Yeah. Jane's a good designer.
Since 2017, our neighborhood cleanups have been a big hit. You know, we've got a lot of positive feedback on these neighborhood cleanups, and we've increased them over the past couple of years. We did bring back the commercial grant. We're looking, you know, in these commercial grants, we were supporting the small businesses to help increase the appearance of local businesses. The business district enhancement increased aluminum tax values and incentivize the private investment in undersized areas. This is one that we did in 2015. If you notice, in 2015, the tax assessment was $213,000, and now it's at $363,000. And this is one that we did, the facade for the L&L Seafood. And total investment was $60,000, and they did get the $10,000 grant amount to go toward that. And this is another one that's in Warrenton. Total investment was over $30,000. They got the $10,000 rehab amount.
What do you have any that you've done like in 2023, 2024?
Remember, we just brought it back.
Oh, it was gone. That was the
Yeah,
problem.
remember, yeah, we brought it back, so.
We left it
still-
alone because of funding. Why did it go away?
I'm sorry.
Why did it go away?
It was, when I got here, it wasn't in, when I started in 2021, it wasn't there, so I'm not sure.
So the last one you had on the screen was 2016, and that was the last year that we were doing that program?
2017,
2017?
yeah.
I mean,
Maybe I'll look at that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mike, I think you brought it back. I mean, which is a great idea.
Well, I thought-
Was that the
yeah.
facade commercial you brought back?
Yeah, we did, but
Yeah.
I don't think we had enough meat on it when we came back.
No, we brought it back.
Right, but I remember one of the roofs over there on Barrancas, I think they came through and did some commercial there, but I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone else has used it that I
We-
know of.
When did you bring it back? When? I can't remember. When
It was over a year ago, and
Yeah,
and the
about
board
last year.
voted
It was last year.
unanimously, and I think it just hasn't got out on the streets.
And we have.
So we had it from 17 to 2023. We didn't have a commercial facade at all in the blighted areas? Wow, interesting.
Our CRA performance snapshot, over the years, 700 residential and commercial grants, 60-plus major projects, over 16,000 acres of service through CRA redevelopment stewardship, 3,000 streetlights, over 9,000 tons of debris that were moved over through our programs. Moving forward, we're looking to expand beautification initiatives, restore historic neighborhoods, upgrade public infrastructure, stimulate private investment, and prioritize sustainable redevelopment. The CRAs are vital to the growth of blighted areas, and we will continue to strive to make these areas grow, so that's it.
Commissioner May, if I could make a comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
No, I'm a huge supporter of CRAs. I think what was missing in this brief, Everett, is the qualifications to be in a CRA. I think you did a great brief,
Okay.
but I don't think most people understand, even to qualify for a CRA, it's based on your crime rate, the income rate, the number of cars, things that a lot of us don't realize and take for granted if you don't realize you may live in one of those neighborhoods.
Yes, sir.
I know Commissioner May and I have the majority of those that meet those criteria. And this program gives back just a little bit to those folks that contribute into their own community. And I'm a huge supporter, and I really hope the state doesn't screw this program up. But I will say, the only suggestion I think we should consider as a board, on the rehab grants, if we have extra money at the end of the year, I think those should roll into the CRA for like sidewalks or other things that we could do rather than rehab if there's an excessive amount. And I don't know what the numbers are ever. It's not that much?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have budgeted for those, we have enough budgeted in the CRAs for this capital improvement, so.
Okay, well, I guess for me, I'd just be interested to see how much was left over in the rehab.
But how much do you
every year.
think's left over, Everett? And what's in your reserve now in the rehab that we're not using? Because, Mike, I agree with you. I mean, I tell you what, I got people every day that's requesting a light or a sidewalk. Yeah.
Safety issue.
Well,
I don't have
how
an
much do you
exact
think's
number.
left over?
I don't have an exact number.
Claire's coming up.
Claire.
I'm sorry. Good morning, board member. So yes, so we do set aside funding for residential grants as well as capital improvement grants. So in the interim, if we're not spending all of the funding that's in the residential grant for that budget year, we can switch it over. So we have done that in passing. So the money for that particular
So that
budget-
doesn't take us to vote, you can do that as the director?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Because it's all within the budget that the board approved, so that money could be moved to wherever it's needed at that time.
Okay, and
Yes,
then
sir.
I'm fine with that. Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Claire. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we've been very supportive of CRAs like you. I believe in investing in human capital. I think when Commissioner Berry and I got on board, it probably was less than 30% was going to CRA, and most of it was going to the general fund.
Whatever the statutory minimum was at the time, it was reduced to that. So, is it 10, Allison, was it 10 or 15%? What was the statutory minimum?
I think it was 15% when we set up the restriction.
Okay,
And where is it now, Elsa?
30,
Huh?
30?
75%.
75. So we've gone from 15 to 75, so that shows a true commitment that I think that this board has to CRAs. I mean, what I would say, Everett, for me, we've gone from 15 to 75%, and that's provided a lot of resources down through the years to that department. Hopefully, we begin to think a little more out the box. If we're doing the same program that we were doing when we were only giving you 15%, then we've clearly, in my opinion, failed. Because we've certainly increased it, by almost 60%, by 60%. So I would like to see that creativity of doing more out of the box of things that improve the quality of life for neighborhoods.
Okay.
Does that conclude? Is there any more questions? Thank you for your presentation. With that, Mr. Chairman, we stand adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll roll into the agenda review, and then right after, that will be by default, and then we'll go into the committee of the whole. So I'll just go through this and read it, and then we'll go, I think I can do both, right, Allison, without reading the disclaimer twice? Is that correct? Okay. Obviously, the Gary Public Forum is intended for matters not included on the agenda for the upcoming Board of County Commissioners meeting. Citizens wishing to address items on the agenda should sign up to speak. At the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting, speakers will refrain from any abuse or profane remarks or subject to outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with orderly conduct of the Gary Sansing Public Forum. All right, if Commissioner Hopperger, you can lead us in the pledge.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Board, I'll go through this real quick. I can do the pledge tonight. Commissioner Stroberger, you have the invocation? All right. I think, Commissioner May, we have a centenarian you're recognizing tonight, is that correct? Looks like Sybil Majors, it looks like you're presenting that tonight. And then Todd's doing the Employee of the Month, and then I'll do the 75th wedding anniversary if everyone's, if that's correct and no one has an issue with that.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll push on. Is there anything on the, I'll see for me, public hearing number 9 on the Escambia Children's Trust. I just want to highlight last year, this board did not accept the waiver. As you know, the sheriff was on board with us using the ECT funds for stuff that the ECT can't use because they can only do programs. But I'll have several things to present tonight on that, and I'll be interested to see where the board lands on that tonight. Is there any other topics that we need to discuss tonight? I think the MSBU may be a very healthy and hearty discussion from what my emails are telling me. So plan on a little bit of discussion on that. Is there anything in the agenda, or budget, finance, or consent that we need to just highlight so the board is prepared for tonight?
I'd like to highlight just some information around John R. Jones,
Okay, that's good. I was going to bring that up. Thanks.
just because it's a big project.
And Mr. Chairman, we'll be dropping car 2-22 this evening.
Which one's that, Wes?
Task order to Jacobs Engineering. We're going to regroup a little bit and then bring it back to the board.
Okay, thank you. All right,
What's
so
that?
Commissioner, are you just saying that you're going to speak on Jones tonight? Okay. Commissioner May?
What are we dropping first?
222 on car, 2-22.
Task order to Jacobs Engineering, Commissioner.
Any questions, Commissioner May, or are you just processing here right now?
Oh, I'll talk to Wes about it after this meeting.
Okay.
I
And then-
was unaware it's been dropped, but it's fine. Mr. Chairman, I guess for the last 15 years, we had the opportunity to celebrate Johnson Beach, which is, quite frankly, the only beach that African Americans could go to when my parents were coming up, and we celebrate Rosamund Johnson, who was the first person to die in the Korean War, Purple Heart, and the beach was named after her. Although it's in your district, I've always yielded to the commissioner from that district. And I know without doing a proclamation, I was there, I guess, from Commissioner Valentino, started it to Commissioner Bagash, now to you. I've always supported with the military that's there and the park rangers and the community. District 3 has always supported resources to help with the feeding. We don't want to take the lead of the commissioner of that district, but we certainly want to still be supportive of that, and we'll be there as well. And certainly would yield the proclamation to you on Saturday, but it's a pretty significant event for not just the Perdido Key and Johnson Beach, for all of Escambia County.
Commissioner May, I'll be there. I have no problem with you presenting the proclamation. And actually, I think it splits Steve and I's district. It's more in Steve's district, but, I don't know if Steve, are you plan on being there on Saturday, or, okay. All right, so, yeah, I look forward to that on Saturday, and I appreciate that. And
Well, typically, the commissioner from that district shares in the funding for the food, not just District 3, so hopefully you'll do that as well.
are you setting me up with the clerk, Commissioner May? I'm not going there. But, okay. If you want me to make a donation personally for stuff, I will. All right. Any other comments on the agenda for tonight? All right. We have a shade meeting, Allison, at 3:30. Okay, and so we need to all be back here for that. And other than that, I don't think there's any other things that we need to bring up. Madam Attorney, you have anything? Okay, and Wes, anything you want to highlight? Okay. All right, then I think let's move into the cow. Commissioner Hoffberger, it's your cow, so you want to lead on this?
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to present on this, and I do have a slideshow, so if we could get that queued up. What we are looking at is there is excess of about $38 million from LOST dollars that have not been allocated. So we're not taking away from other projects, but we do have that money to spend, and I would like to ask the board to consider spending that on making sure that everyone in our community receives the fire services that they need, and that the people who have been impacted in our community with higher homeowners insurance because of stations moving or closing, that we can help alleviate some of that. So I have a few pieces of the puzzle, and I would like to present those, and then we can all work together for missing pieces and connecting those and doing what's best for the community. So building a safer future, 4 new fire stations, and then the rehab or in addition to living quarters to 1. So if we can flip slides. Investing in safety. So working with Chief Harrison, what we have identified as the top priority stations would be a replacement on the station located on Lillian Highway. That one's old. I know that you're very familiar with some of the issues they've been having there. A new fire station on Highway 97 and Kingsfield Road. There are several communities in that area that are more than 5 miles away from a fire station, so their homeowners insurance is 30 to 60% more than what it would be if they were located closer to a fire station. And that area is growing exponentially. It's a beautiful place to live, and more people are moving there. Paradise Beach, which we have recently lost a station there, and some of the people in that area are also suffering higher homeowners insurance rates because they don't have a station close enough to them. And then Gulf Beach Highway is one of our older stations. It's very, very ran down. It was never meant to be a fire station to begin with. There's a lot of rehab that needs to happen there. Potentially, I think what they're looking at is leveling that and starting from scratch just because it is so outdated. And then White Ash Road right now is just where we have trucks stored. And from what I understand, that has been responded by volunteer firefighters, and that upon reinspection for our ISO, which is where all the ratings come from, if that station is not operable, some folks in that area will also be experiencing higher insurance costs as well. Additionally, that area is growing. So those are kind of the needs that I have identified. Looking at top level, like worst case scenario, $34 million for all of those. That would also include the demo of the stations that is needed. So you're looking at about $6.8 million per station. Obviously, we're hoping we could get it below that, but for budgeting purposes, we always think on the high end, what is this going to cost us? There's also a lot of unknowns right now with the economy and the building industry. And then this is based off of key standards, the Florida Building Code, of course, and then the FAC, which is the standards for construction, repair, and maintenance for firefighter employees. That's really what is recommended nationwide that we should be looking at following. Next slide. Why this is practical. So there are other communities that have built fire stations recently that fall within the same price range. I've listed those out for you. Obviously, these are bigger communities and smaller communities and similar communities, so it does run the gamut. But as you can tell, we should be able to accomplish what we're looking for at or below the budget that I proposed. One of the closest stations we're looking at is Holly Navarre, and then also an example from Panama City Beach. So both of those are located within the Panhandle and recent projects. So I think it's a good case study for us to look at as far as what we could build and what dollar amount we could look at building those for. Next PowerPoint. Enhanced safety. Obviously, it's very important when someone picks up the phone and calls 911 that someone is available to respond, and that person has the tools, equipment, and skills to respond to the emergencies. Resiliency. We are a hurricane-prone area. Fortunately, it's been a while since we've experienced a huge hurricane, but we are experiencing natural disasters left and right. The snowstorm is a example of that, and we need to make sure that we have resources spread throughout our entire community to help residents in need. And then a local economy. Obviously, we want to go with local contractors as much as we can. We're building this with taxpayer dollars, so we want to be responsible for those taxpayer dollars, but we want to boost our local economy as much as we can. So it would be my ask that we would provide preference to contractors located in and around Escambia County. And then long-term value. So there is a cost to keeping the dilapidated and ran-down stations that we have. Not only is it demoralizing to the employees, but it is also extremely expensive to upkeep, and it's hard to plan for that as they're aging out. Next slide. So next steps, I think that we need to come together and make sure that we are identifying the areas of need in the community. Let's have some collaboration on that. Let's ask Chief Harrison to move forward with the purchasing process. I would also like to recommend that we consider a progressive design and build contract versus what we have done in the past. This will give us the ability to partner with someone from the beginning that has the construction experience versus just partnering with a design and architect and engineering firm and then hiring out the construction. Case studies show that it reduces the change order, and typically those projects do come in below budget because we are working with one partner from the beginning. There's less handoff, there's less lag time, and we're able to make an impact in our community sooner. It would be my ask that we issue this RFP, or whatever initials we're going to use to identify that purchasing process, by June 1. We would evaluate proposals by August 1st, and we would, if possible, break ground March 1st. And with that, I would love to open it up to conversation and hear everyone's input, and hopefully have a very collaborative group effort to move forward with public safety.
Well, if there's no other comments, I'd like to first thank you for putting that together, Commissioner Hoffberger. I think everyone on the board is committed to public safety. The first thing I'd like to ask Wes, is this proposal something that we can take on? I think it's important that we have that on the record for all 5 of the requests that Commissioner Hoffberger's suggested.
Mr. Chairman, I do believe we could take that on if that's the board's direction.
Okay. And, well, that's good. Okay. I will share this. You're right. The 3 fire stations in District 2 are 30 years outdated. When I first got elected, Steve Bodie asked me to go out to Pleasant Grove to have me look at fecal coming up in the bathroom while they were doing it. And I know they have a low water issue out there and stuff, but they are in desperate need. That one you highlighted, Myrtle Grove, I know Chief Harrison's working on trying to get that, like we did in Warrington, from the volunteer fire department underneath the county, which I'm sure we're probably getting close to that. I need to have follow-up on that. But I believe public safety is probably our premier job that we need to, that our first priority. And other than EMS and the Sheriff's Department as well, firefighters have, and the word firefighting is, I think, kind of a misnomer, because the majority of their job is paramedic and EMT response. And the time to treat in those things matter in survivability. And it's so important, if you live close to a fire station, that the probability of you surviving and living goes up highly, extremely high, compared to if you live in a rural area or farther away from a fire station. So this plan, for me, is, I'm very supportive, especially now that Wes has shared that we can absolutely fund it if the board agrees. I know we're not voting on it today. I guess in the next meeting, maybe we'd have to put on the agenda if the board believes it's worthy. But I want to just say thank you, and I appreciate the work on this. Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Hoffberger, thank you for bringing it forward. I believe public safety is paramount, and I do like where you're going with local contractors. Hopefully we don't, bid it all to one contractor and have the fiasco that we had with the jail. Commissioner Kohler, I do agree with you that it's just like guys climbing ladders and putting out fires. You have EMT and paramedics, and so that's why it's very important to have, the advanced life support there. I don't have one of those in my district. They're on Pensacola Beach. They're also out in Perdido, but I probably have the highest rate of strokes, heart attacks, and health issues. I mean, that's one of the reasons, the Baptist deal for me has to be healthcare, and so I would like to look at it holistically. That's important to me. I know that there is action by Director Gilmore that we could be, in the training business that's going to generate revenue and have a school and maybe dormitories and make it advanced. And I know the presentation that was brought to me was kind of on a very skeleton budget. I could be supportive of doing this, and looking at this, but I'd like to look at it holistically. How do we have the school, the training center, and building the systems as well, and making sure that we, for me, if we can do this school and we can have the dormitories and we start regionally training firefighters, that's going to be revenue that's going to come in. It's going to be tourist dollars that are going to come in. And so I hope that that's considered in this next proposal, and I don't think it'd be ready by the 15th, but I hope that that's included. And I think, looking candidly at where we need to put advanced life support systems and making sure that we have EMTs and paramedics, quite frankly, in the areas that are needed. I mean, I know that there's a challenge and a barrier getting out to the Keys or getting to Pensacola Beach, but there are also medical and food deserts and health disparities that, as you said, Mike, you support CRAs within the CRA. I can guarantee you the health issues that they have are more severe, and I'd like to look at those numbers and look at how many calls we do have there versus the calls that we have in the outline areas. And for me also, to take a quick look. Ashley, I know you and I both share the city, so, we pay those extra taxes, and we have, probably more fire stations, but there are areas that are pockets within my district, like Inglewood, like the aviation field, that certainly have distance away from fire stations that we need to put under consideration. I probably have the most death of children in my district because they burn for fire, because when we talk about rehab today, we talk about people living in substandard housing, substandard wiring, and these people tend to have, no carbon monoxide, no fire alarms, and they tend to get trapped quicker than others. A young man that played for me, Jeremy Madison, Mike, got shared in our district where he just went upstairs to save his two sisters and was paralyzed and put in a coma for the rest of his life at the age of 9. So fire rescue is very important to me. So I'd like it. I would just like for it to be more holistic, to be very inclusive of our CRAs, our urban cores, and not just on the outlying areas, but once we get that together, and to then come back and look at what the real cost is for us to do it. Because if we can do a fire school or we can do other enhancement, 32 million, 40 million, I mean, it's not a big difference if we're bringing deliverables. And finally, I mean, there'll be a different conversation, I guess, tonight as we look at this MSBU and, as we lay out this capital outlay, how do we lay out the operational outlay in the forecast of the operations and personnel and upkeep and those things as we move forward. And so those would be my points, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Made a lot of good comments there. Well, hopefully I'll let everyone talk, and then we'll talk about the training academy. Commissioner Barry, do you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate Commissioner Hoffberger putting together the presentation. I mean, there's a lot of, well, it's not that many slides. It is a very impactful financial proposal, and the timeline's very aggressive, but it's reasonable. I'm very familiar with the two areas that are highlighted in the constituency that I have. The other three areas I'm not as familiar with, of course, but I think the conversation is worth moving forward. Again, with the timeline for an RFP going out June 1, I think that's probably very aggressive. But if the gist of it is you're looking for general levels of support and the opportunity to move the ideas, idea or combined ideas forward, I'm good with that.
Thank you, Commissioner Barry. Commissioner Stroberger?
Yeah, so this is one of the most important things we can do. I share the same passion everyone else does, in particular with Commissioner Hoffberger, the importance of this. I'm very, very fortunate. I live 3 miles from a firehouse, and there's 2 of them very close to my house. I had a town hall list last week, and the first thing on my list of things to talk about was the firehouse, well, the lack of a firehouse on Paradise Beach. That firehouse disappeared 7 years ago. It was a volunteer firehouse, and their ISO rating went from a 4, and I don't know what my ISO rating is, but it's probably better than a 4 because I'm so close to a firehouse, from a 4 to a 10, and that's really affected those folks out in that area. Approximately 3,000 homes are affected by not having a firehouse there. Now, we're in the process, very, very close, we're getting close every day, to acquiring the property over there in Bronson Field, about 5 acres. And we have the fire truck, right? We have a fire truck, we have the equipment, we're training the personnel. But insurance rates have gone up, and this isn't an exaggeration, 350% annually for some folks. A friend of mine, Gil, was there at the town hall, and he talked about his insurance rate going up from roughly $2,000 to, $5,500, $6,000 a year. And then he's also got property out there. He pays the same MSBU I pay, and I live 3 miles away from the firehouse, and he doesn't. The same firehouse that services my neighborhood services Gil's neighborhood. I don't know why we've neglected it this long, but it's time to not do that. So I'm in support of this, and I'm in support of the timeline. I'm in support of expediting the whole thing, everything. I think it needs to be fair. It hasn't been fair to those folks out there for a long time, and I don't know why it hasn't been fair, but very, late last year when I met Gil, it became a priority for me, and I don't know, maybe I got wrapped up in this job, and maybe I didn't focus on it as much as I should have. I'm glad that Commissioner Hoffberger has, and I'm laser focused on it too. Thank you.
Commissioner Stroberg, I think there's one thing that we should mention, and you weren't here, Commissioner Bergosh was here when I first got on board, and he asked me to go talk to the Navy about that land. And the Navy's committed to give us that land, and it's going to happen. And they've told me from the Admiral down, I know it's taken longer than it should, but even last month when I was at the Defense Summit, they committed to me that it's going to happen. And so I know that it's taken longer than it should. I just think we should give the Navy a thank you for actually giving us that property. It was just something that I got involved in by default being in the Navy, but I want to thank the former CO, the Admiral over at CNIC, Steve Opelika, and Debbie, and our folks working with the Navy, and I promise it's going to get done. I've got their word, and I believe they're going to do it. So I want to just thank the Navy for giving us that property.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for you leading the effort to acquire that property. And I've asked Wes if I can insert myself in any way to expedite it. I want to.
Okay. Commissioner Hopperger?
Thank you. I just want to loop back and make sure that we have some of our priorities clearly listed moving forward. Commissioner May, getting another fire station in your district seems to be a priority. Would the appropriate ask be for Chief Harrison to work with you and you guys identify a location that would work for the community?
Right.
Okay. And then, Wes, if we can also see if there's a possible way, just run some numbers and see if we can work in a training facility, maybe at some of this property that we're already doing work at?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Let's.
Are you wrapping up?
Commissioner Holberg,
Yeah.
Hoffberger. Can we also include having Director Gilmore and the chief looking at the enhanced of the training center? And I think that they've identified property that the county already owns that's centrally located. And to include this in the study to bring back in the proposal.
Commissioner May,
love
do you
that
think would you guys mind if we asked Chief Harrison to talk about that just a little bit? I mean,
I don't know if he's ready, but if he's ready to talk
Well,
about
I'd
it,
just
yeah.
like to hear what I don't need a PowerPoint. I just like to hear what his vision is for this.
And
Because
I think they
it's
briefly,
important.
Mr. Chairman, I think they briefly informed me, and they didn't have, it was kind of a schematic and a concept. And then when I recognized that we would be possibly, building these centers, quite frankly, I talked to the union president this past week on how do we enhance it and how do we make it, quite frankly, even tied to tourist development dollars, because people will be coming from out of town to be a part of it, they're staying, and it was just a burn house and those type of things, which, I would not be supportive of, because if we were going to put it at the Superfund site, there were promises that were made to that community, a blighted community, a CRA, that it needed to physically look appealing, and it needed to be more than just a occasionally burn house where people were there, that it needed to be a campus.
Yeah.
But I'll let Chief, I mean, in great presentation, I certainly didn't want to put you on the spot, but I know you're talking about it.
It's okay.
And I apologize putting you on the spot, but I think it's worthy to talk about it. And
Sure.
I think it's important the firefighters know how committed the board is, not just for the firehouses, but the training. Training's important. Training's vital.
Sure.
You can build a firehouse, but if you don't have appropriately trained firefighters, you know, where are you? So anyways, I
Exactly.
want
We got to be able to fill the, I mean, if we build these buildings, we got to have the personnel. And, you know, I want to grow, Mike, I like the idea of growing our own, you know, even with our economic development. You know, it saddens me, even with, candidly, ST Aerospace and sometimes with Navy Federal, that we have to go outside our area. I mean, it's the people in this area that pay the taxes, people in this area that live here. We should grow our own, train our own, and keep them here in Escambia County.
Yeah. Well, Chief Harrison, would you share your
Sure.
vision as our fire chief to let us know where you want to go?
Absolutely, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak on that. While I wasn't prepared, I'm certainly more, I'm happy to discuss it with you guys. And we did hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad you guys approached this topic about how important training is. And how many hours we have to put in. When I say we, collectively, the fire department and the men and women that are on the street, they have to put in hundreds of hours. I'm not sure if I know you're familiar with CEUs. That's called continuing education units. And basically what that is it's something that says you have to put in a certain amount of hours to keep up this level of training or keep up this certificate. And many of our people, not only, as you've mentioned, are EMTs, paramedics, you have hazmat personnel out there, you have special operations for your building collapse, structural collapse, rescue, heavy rescue situations, rope rescue. All of these are independent certificates that require additional training to have for that. So a training tower or a training site where we can evaluate all of our personnel and keep them up to the most up-to-date criteria for those individuals would be huge. And I speak to this all the time, is we get one shot. When we go to an emergency, there's no redo, there's no do-over, let's try again. It's one shot. So much like the military that you've served on, lots of hours of practice go into an execution. And when that execution comes is when the bell rings for us. And we do get that one shot. And again, no timeouts when we're there. We have to get it right the first time to give the citizens the best option that they have. And that is requiring hundreds of hours of training by each individual, not by the whole department, by each individual has hundreds of hours of training throughout the year. So that's my pitch on why we need the training center. What we expect to have in our training facility is a multi-story building that we can do our high-rise operations in. We've had over close to 800 buildings this year that you've seen on a previous presentation of 3 stories and greater. So this building would be higher than that so that we could practice all of our high-rise standpipe operations, multi-company drills inside that. We would also have our bread and butter residential building right next to it, where we would also practice what we typically see day in and day out, and that's our single-family dwellings. So we'd have a burn building that would execute there. In addition to that, we're going to have a hazmat prop with a rail car that we can practice and use for our hazmat people. We're going to have a place for our special operations where we're going to have a rubble pile where they can simulate a collapsed building and saving people inside. We're going to have a confined spaced area where they would be able to communicate and use their skills and their equipment to go inside those tunnels and rescue people out. So it's a very holistic view of what we're trying to do training-wise and executing all of those facets in one center. We are going to have a north end and a south end center that are considered satellite areas because the county is so large. Our main training would be hubbed at that center. And then the north end in Molino would have a satellite center. So instead of, coming every week, they're able to get closer to these and not pulling them too far out of their districts. But the main center is going to be that hub where all this is at. My hopes is to expound even further. I'm glad to let you know that our training division had its first fire academy that we put through roughly 8 months ago, and we had a 100% success rate.
Awesome.
That is not typical through normal standards. Typically, there's a 30 to 40% attrition rate. We feel by having and teaching our own people, we're able to put everything that we want into them. We can see their shortcomings, and we have a desire to make them through the program. We want the people that we get. Most of those people we're seeing are local people from the area, which is hugely important to us because their family lives here, and they're more apt to stay even longer. So when we run that training facility, we're going to pull these individuals in and put them through all the training that we have. I can't always promise a 100% success rate, unfortunately, but I think it just goes to show the abilities that we have with the personnel that we have. These are personnel that we have doing the training and not seeking from the outside. To expand on that, sorry, I'm getting a little lengthy here, but I really want to paint that vision, is start teaching fire academies where we bring people in and we start making revenue from that. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but that's the plan. I want to bring in national speakers to educate our firefighters in districts around us, because ultimately it's important to spread that with the districts around us, because we have mutual aid agreements that we bring in those departments, and we want to have them operating at the same success rate that we do. So that's the envision of this training site and what we would do and how it's going to help the citizens and our firefighters alike.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopper.
I think Representative Salzman has also secured some state
Absolutely.
funding for that as well, so we do
She
have
has.
some dollars there.
She did. She gave us $1 million, the state did. So we're
awesome.
looking to move on this site. It was a great opportunity for her to add funding to that, and we're certainly looking forward to once we can
Where's
break
the
ground.
site again? I probably should know this.
We're looking at Brownsfield right now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. All right. And Commissioner Strober?
I think it's ironic that Gil, you know Gil.
I
He's a
do
friend
know.
of mine. He's a friend of yours. I think he said he trained you.
He did.
He did.
When I went through the academy in, I believe it was 93 or 94, yes.
Yeah, he's the gentleman I'm talking about, 45-year veteran
Yes, sir.
firefighter. It's ironic that he doesn't have great fire protection where he lives. Yeah, I just...
It is a shame, yes, sir.
It's terrible.
I agree.
But I know you're going to get to it. Thanks.
I am. I'm
Chief
working hard.
Harrison, I got some more detailed questions just because of
Sure.
my background. So the first question I have, in the makeup of a fire truck, is there a paramedic on everyone? I don't think there is.
There's not a paramedic right now. We
Is that a
currently-
goal we're looking for? Or what is our vision when a rig
Sure.
goes out, the makeup of the team?
Sure. If it was a perfect world, sure, I'd love that. What we have right now is difficulty hiring paramedics, only due to the nature of what I spoke to earlier, and that is all the certificates you have to do that. We do offer incentives for those paramedics to come in where we can provide them additional funding because it is an additional CEUs that they have to keep up. It's hard to pull them in currently.
What percentage of our firefighters are paramedics? Because the standard of care is so different between a paramedic and
Right.
EMT and what they can do. How many do we have?
Sure. So what the exact number, I'd have to get back with you on the exact number. It's not very many, and I'll explain that.
Okay.
So right now, what the plan is, or how we currently run, is EMS runs in the core area. So we've put these paramedics in the outlying areas because we know it takes an ambulance longer to get there. So we place paramedics in the further out stations so that we can have that advanced life support when there's or possibly a delay by the ambulance getting out to a further outlying station. We're in the core area, that's one of their heat maps where they keep ambulances. So and on most ambulances, there's ALS already on that ambulance. So
Okay.
that's why we have that pushed out with our ambulance
No, I like that
services.
idea. I mean,
So-
I would just like, it'd be awesome if we could have a paramedic because the survivability would go substantially up.
I don't disagree.
You said about okay, you said you train inside. So, for example, and I know you know this, but I don't know on the fire side, if you have ACLS, obviously, and you want to teach ACLS, you have to go through a certification process to be an ACLS. Is there a process set for the firefighters, that there's a certification to
Yes,
train
yes,
the
sir.
train?
Currently,
Okay.
there's only one in the county, and the city owns their building down there. It's
There's only
Pensacola
one
Station
train the
4.
trainer in the whole Escambia?
One training site.
Oh,
that
yeah,
is-
okay.
That is certified by the state.
Okay.
And so our facility would be certified by the state, where we could teach all the programs that fall under the state umbrella. And that's an additional thing that I would like to do, is offer those programs to our people, but eventually to a cost to other people that want to come in.
Well, I guess, and that's great. How many instructors do you have to train people? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Oh, if you're talking about ACLS now, that's done through EMS.
Right.
So ACLS, PALS, all that other stuff goes through
But
EMS.
if we start our own academy, I'm asking, is there a process for the trainer, then trainer instructor on fire safety, and how many do we have?
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. So we have ACLS, so we have trained trainers in EMS side. We have about, I think, 8 providers who can train
Okay.
ACLS. We actually are looking at this training center as a joint, that EMS will actually start their own EMT and paramedic programs out there. So we're wanting, the big picture is everything's going to be trained out there at this one site, to include EMS, our EMT, and our paramedic standards, and we do our own paramedic school. The success he has had with his academy speaks volumes to what we need to do with our paramedic side as well. When we send our EMTs off to the other campuses around here, sometimes the attrition rate gets us. It's not a good pass rate. It's concerning to us, but when there are people, we invest time in our people, we can get a better pass rate with our people teaching our people. So with having said that, then we can flip that side and generate revenue with having paramedic schools from outside agencies as well.
I like DMT and EMS. I'll be interested to see how the paramedic thing goes down. That's a lot longer, and we'll just, you know.
It is. It's a much longer program.
You want to make sure that you have the right people doing that. But anyways,
sir.
yeah, that's great. Okay. So the only thing that it sounds like you look at the makeup to try to, for survivability. Obviously, I'd like to see more paramedics. I know it costs a little bit more, but I know they're probably hard to get because they're working on EMS and other things that, you know, not firefighting. But thank you for coming up and sharing all those comments. It matters. It matters to all of us for safety.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner, ma'am, sorry.
I just want to concur and agree with you. I think it's very important to get ALS, particularly in low-income neighborhoods. And, you know, although we have those heat maps, it's good to have them on the fire trucks because many times the quick response is the fire engine that's getting on site at many calls. If you don't believe it, you know, I can just tell you, probably every Little League game or high school game, I mean, the fire engines are there before anybody else is there. And it's good to have them ALS equipped, certified, and have them in place. And so for those of us who've been on the board long enough, we know what improper training, or at least the accusation of improper training, can cause in entire county. And so it's quite frankly cost us millions and millions. So if we can invest something on the front end to make sure that we got training that's critical, and I'm going to be supportive, you know, if we can, you know, at least, you know, have one ALS in every district, you know, and so it would be important for me, if I voted for anything, that I at least had one in my district, although I support, you know, where the other 5 are. It'd be critical for me to have at least one, particularly in our high stroke, high heart attack areas that we know that's existing, you know, daily because of, you know, we got whenever you got a dialysis center, you're probably going to need an ALS fire department because people are going to have strokes. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have one more question, and I can't remember the name of the CPR machine that I asked you about, Eric.
Auto Pulse or Lucas device? There's a
Lucas
couple
device.
different
I don't know why that was missed. How's that coming on the fire trucks?
So we haven't procured any for fire right now. All the ambulances have Lucas devices.
So they all the ambulances have them now?
All the ambulances have them.
Okay.
All the ambulances have them. The supervisors, EMS supervisors carry them in their SUVs while they're out in the field. Fire department, unfortunately, does not have that device right now. What we consider the Lucas device is the third rider on that fire truck until he gets tired, and then they swap out. But we're looking.
Is that something you're looking at, though?
We're
Because
looking into that, yes.
I mean,
it's a
that
cost
frees up 2
associated-
hands to do something else.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Especially if you got a trauma where someone's bleeding and they also are in respiratory failure, you can't do both.
Right.
So I'd like to see that at least at some of the fire departments. I mean, I like the idea, but okay. Sure. All right. I don't have any more questions. Does the board have anything else? All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for
I
giving us the
appreciate
opportunity.
that. Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. If you'll stick around, I got a couple questions
Sure.
about Warrington and Myrtle
Absolutely.
Grove later. Not, you know, if you're going to be
I'll
around.
be here. Thanks.
And then I guess if there's nothing else, board, we'll meet at 3:30 this evening.